on the special broadcast, we're also joined by our executive editor, Abhishek. He's also going to get us some inside track because we are, of course, Abhishek, over to you. It's a final countdown. It's also Niranjan continues to be live with us at the crack of the dawn, and now we can see it's a beautiful sun rising behind you. Abhishek, this news break that Niranjan got to us, well, look at the timings of it when United States is telling Pakistan categorically that you better prosecute global terrorism. There's a specific mention of Maulana Masood Azhar. Don't you think this, like Niranjan rightly put it across a while back, is going to be a really big psychological blow to Pakistan? Looking at Imran Khan also going to raise Kashmir bogie, and at the same time when our Prime Minister concludes, and then next it's going to be Mr. Imran Khan. Talking to UNGA.
Well, let's understand clearly, Sakal. Hafiz Saeed is not just India's, fugitive. He is fugitive for America also because of his involvement in 26/11. So, America also needs him. America has put a bounty on his head apart from the United Nations prescribing him as a terrorist. So, the world understands what Pakistan is. Go back to the time of Hillary Clinton. Clintons and when Madeleine Albright, for example, had said that you can't be harboring snakes in your backyard and expect different results. Pakistan has to understand that their story is over. The world is fed up, and it's time that they really look within instead of indulging in the kind of propaganda they have been doing. But, we are discussing Prime Minister's address. Pakistan is not the issue. Terror would obviously be a component of the speech of Prime Minister, obviously, because we have suffered, the latest being Pulwama episode.
Right.
Kashmir, some explanation on the part of India as to why it has been done so that all the concerns of the global community are addressed. We have seen how in the last fortnight measures have been taken so that normalcy returns on the ground in the valley. And Prime Minister then, of course, would focus on a global vision of what India has to offer. So, Pakistan remains a subset of terrorism component of the speech. I believe nothing more than that.
Niranjan, you want to say something on this, and especially the way Imran Khan seems to have possibly given up the plot on Kashmir, the kind of interviews he's been rolling out to some international publications and media houses there in New York, isn't it?
Yeah, Sakal, I actually wanted to ask Abhishek, a couple of things, because nobody knows the Prime Minister's office or has covered the Prime Minister for longer than Abhishek, because Abhishek knows him from his days as the Chief Minister of Gujarat. And Abhishek, I want to ask you, I don't know, at least as an observer, somebody who's been in the newsroom and who's covered the Prime Minister during his visits. I was there at only one of his visits before this, and that was in 2015 at Wembley. But I want to ask you, when you look at, I think I have, come here, come. So I have a panelist joining me here from outside the United Nations headquarters. So we will be joined by many more panelists. But brother, just hold on with me. I'm just taking a question with my colleague Abhishek there. Abhishek, I wanted to ask you, this time, the Prime Minister's first engagement was at the climate summit, and I think the world is starting to take note India, because our narrative at the United Nations has also changed. Now, he spoke about climate summit, spoke about sustainable development, and on top of that building, the United Nations headquarters, India has also set up a solar panel park with 193 panels, which is a tribute to the 193 nations at the United Nations. And he's talking about a range of issues, and we believe that the narrative this time, when the Prime Minister speaks inside the United Nations Assembly, will be different. Are you also getting that sense, Abhishek?
Niranjan, it's important that you ask, because it gives me an opportunity to tell you something, and to the viewers as well. In fact, Narendra Modi, when he was Chief Minister of Gujarat, the government of Gujarat became the first government in Asia, mind you, to set up climate change department, and that was in 2006-2007, more than a decade back. So Narendra Modi's concern for climate change goes back to that time. And he not only set up that department, that time there was a very famous documentary on Vogue at that time made by the then US Vice President Al Gore, or former Vice President by that time Al Gore, which was called An Inconvenient Truth. So while the world was focusing at that time on the tragedy or the big catastrophe that climate change was going to become, Narendra Modi actually set up a climate change department, and a lot of things were done at that time in Gujarat which really set an example as to how to actually tackle the climate change crisis. For example, the manner in which carbon sequestration was done in Gujarat, the manner in which the Gujarat government took benefit of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, the manner in which, for example, the flow of Narmada waters spreading across Gujarat was used as a measure with various schemes to raise the water table in many parts of Gujarat, and thus saving power which would have otherwise been used to pump out water from the ground. So many things were done, and Narendra Modi government now at center by setting up that power plant, solar power plant atop the United Nations headquarters has really set an example for the global community that instead of discussing and debating and shedding tears, better you get into action mode. That's what Narendra Modi has sent across a message with that power plant that has been a solar power plant that has been set up atop the United Nations building. But I believe, Niranjan, as we were discussing earlier, I was discussing with Sakal in the studio.
Yeah.
It's not just about climate change. Climate change, of course, remains a very important issue. But Narendra Modi, when he's going to take that podium at the UNGA, he is going to address a whole gamut of things, and more importantly, underscore what India can give. So it's not just about asking from the world, as many nations do. It's about what India can give and how the world can follow.
So it's going to be all the way India's Day at UNGA.